Matthew Perry called him Kenny. He had known him for 25 years. He trusted him with his home, his schedule, his privacy, and most importantly, his sobriety. Kenny's most important job was to be Matthew's companion and guardian in his fight against addiction, to ensure that Matthew remained what he wanted to be, drug-free. Instead, Kenny became the thing that finally killed him. On the 28th of October 2023, Kenneth Iwamasa injected Matthew Perry with at least 3 shots of ketamine. Then he left to run errands. When he came back, he found Perry face down in his jacuzzi. Perry was 54 years old. Next Tuesday, Kenneth Iwamasa will stand before a judge and be sentenced for his role in Matthew Perry's death. He faces up to 15 years in prison. Prosecutors are recommending 41 months. And yesterday, Perry's mother stood in a courtroom and read a letter that should make every single person who ever watched Friends sit down. Matthew Perry made choices that contributed to his death. Addiction is brutal, complicated, and deeply unfair to the people trapped inside it. But there is still a difference between a man losing a battle he fought for decades and the people around him deciding to profit from the losing. Let's go back to the beginning, because this story did not start with a needle and a jacuzzi. It started with a man who spent decades watching Matthew Perry try to stay alive, and then decided to become the thing that took it. In late September 2023, Perry asked Iwamasa to start procuring ketamine for him. He gave Iwamasa money and directed him to find sources. Iwamasa met with a doctor named Salvador Plasencia at least 7 times between September 30th and October 28th, handing over at least $55,000 of Perry's own money to purchase liquid ketamine and ketamine lozenges. $55,000 in less than a month, handed over by a man with no medical training whatsoever. Not a doctor, not a nurse, not anyone who had any business being near a needle. At some point during those 7 meetings, Dr. Plasencia apparently decided that the right thing to do was teach Iwamasa how to inject Perry himself. So that is what happened. A licensed physician taught Matthew Perry's personal assistant how to administer ketamine injections and then sent him home to do it. In the 4 days before Perry died, Iwamasa was injecting him 6 to 8 times a day. On October 28th, he gave Perry a shot at 8:30 in the morning, another around 12:45 in the afternoon while Perry watched a movie. Then Perry asked him to prepare the jacuzzi. And then, according to prosecutors, said the last words anyone would ever hear from him. "Shoot me up with a big one." That was his 3rd injection of the day. Iwamasa did it, and then he left to run errands. And in the days leading up to that moment, Iwamasa was also quietly destroying evidence. He removed used and unused ketamine vials from the house and told the middleman Fleming that he had deleted everything. He was not just enabling the addiction, he was covering his tracks while it was still happening. Meanwhile, the people selling the drugs knew exactly what was happening. Dr. Plasencia wrote in a text message about Perry, "I wonder how much this moron will pay," adding that Perry was losing control. The doctor who was supposed to help him get better was texting about him like a walking ATM. A middleman named Eric Fleming connected Iwamasa to a woman prosecutors called the Ketamine Queen of North Hollywood, Yasveen Sangha. Fleming delivered ketamine to Perry's house knowing Iwamasa had no medical training, took a cut, he called a logistics fee, and passed the rest to Sangha. 5 different people made money off Matthew Perry's relapse, and not one of them decided to stop what was happening. The saddest part of this story is that Matthew Perry spent decades fighting addiction publicly and still died surrounded by enablers privately. Everybody around him could see he was slipping. The ones making money off it just didn't care. And eventually, the legal consequences started arriving. Sangha was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Plasencia got 30 months. Chavez got 8 months of house arrest. Fleming got 2 years. Now the man who spent 25 years inside Matthew Perry's life is finally about to be sentenced for helping destroy it. Yesterday, Perry's mother, Suzanne Morrison, who called her son Matzo and whom he called Mama Muma his entire life, stood up in court and read a letter that nobody who heard it will forget. "We trusted a man without a conscience, and my son paid the price. Kenny's most important job by far was to be my son's companion and guardian in his fight against addiction. But instead of protecting Matthew, he aided and abetted illegal drug taking arranged for one source of supply, then another. Shot the drugs into Matthew's body, though he was not in the least qualified. He did it even though he could see anyone could have seen it was so obviously dangerous. And he did it again and again. But she was not done. Perry's stepsister, Madeline, went to his home after his death to pick out his burial clothes. She found Iwamasa there. She described his behavior as manic. After Iwamasa helped kill her son, he insisted on speaking at Matthew's funeral. He clung to the family. He kept a sharp eye on Suzanne afterward, sending her songs, checking in, and at some point drawing her a little map to help her find her way around the cemetery where her son was buried. Sit with that for a second. He drew a grieving mother a map to her dead son's grave, the same son he injected with ketamine and then left alone in a jacuzzi while he ran errands. That level of either delusion or calculated nerve is genuinely hard to make sense of. And the fact that nobody around him apparently found it strange enough to say something out loud tells you everything about how completely he had repositioned himself in that family's grief as some kind of caretaker. He killed her son and then showed up at the funeral to grieve with the family. Suzanne Morrison ended her statement with a few words that say everything. Closure, she wrote, doesn't exist. Matthew Perry spent his entire adult life fighting addiction publicly and honestly in a way almost no celebrity of his stature ever has. He wrote a book about it. He talked about it in interviews. He never pretended it wasn't happening. He wanted to be sober. He said so. The people around him knew he was struggling to stay clean. And the man he trusted most for 25 years chose to become his dealer instead. Kenneth Iwamasa will be sentenced on May 27th. Whatever that sentence is, it will not bring Matthew Perry back. It will not give his mother closure. And it will not answer the question that sits underneath all of this. How does someone who watched a person fight for sobriety for decades decide that what they needed was a needle instead of a phone call to get help? That question does not have a good answer. It just has a sentencing date.
That's my opinion!